Howdy y'all, the Fuzzy Biker here. We are at Springbrook State Park in beautiful Guthrie County. There is my wonderful Royal Enfield Himalayan 2021 model. That baby has got 20,000 miles on her as of today. 20,000 miles, 2 years. I got it 23 months ago. I got it on October 5th, 2 years ago. And I have never regretted it, not 1 minute. I just love this bike. I bought it brand new at baxtercycle.com. And I want to tell you something. On paper, this thing is a dud. You know, if you look at the specs, they tell you, hey, it's heavy, it's got a long wheelbase, it's tall, it's underpowered, the big one. Underpowered, 24 horsepower, you know. I've owned about 60 motorcycles in my life. And this is the one I've enjoyed the most. Of all the bikes I've ever had in my life, this is the one motorcycle that I just truly love. And I just can't get myself... I had the opportunity to trade it in this last couple weeks on a Tiger, where we really worked hard on a deal, the Triumph Tiger. Another absolutely fabulous motorcycle. And when it came right down to it, I just could not trade. I just, you know, when you have a motorcycle that works so well for you, it's hard to do that. And the deal they gave me was... It was a deal you couldn't refuse, and I refused it. What's wrong with me, right? But anyway, it's just been a fabulous machine, and I've absolutely loved it. I want to talk briefly. So this video is going to be kind of long, I suppose. I'm going to talk about well, what I just talked about, how I got the bike, and some of the maintenance we've done this week. And later we'll talk about I'll have to go do an oil change in here somewhere today, and we'll talk about the things I've done to the motorcycle, the things I did not do to the motorcycle, how it rides, how it, you know, things, all the little details about it. And in the end, we'll do a conclusion. Something I want to talk about right away is the buying experience. I bought this at Baxter Cycle. I'm very proud of that, because when it came to deal with the price, we worked out a verbal agreement, and I said I'll do it, and they said okay, we'll have the bike here tomorrow. I said I need paperwork. Oh, it's just what we told you. No change. I said no, I need it in writing, or else I'm not, you know, because you know how it is. You go to the dealer and there's always some sort of magic fees that appear or something like that. And so he gave me paperwork. It was exactly what we'd agreed on, and I gave him a deposit, I think. And I came back a day or two later and I paid the difference, and it was exactly what they had quoted me. Everything was just right on, you know. And that was 20,000 miles ago, about 2 years ago. Something I want to talk about real quick is maintenance that we've done in just the last couple days. This is a Dunlop Trailmax Mission tire. It's the second one of these I've had on here. The one that this is brand new. We just put this on this week. Look at that, isn't that just a beefy tire? Now I had one on here before, and I got 15,400 miles on it. I just wore. I did a little video about that if you want to look that up. But I mean, I just wore that tire down to shreds, and I'm not going to let this one go that long. The other thing I want to talk about is I'd gotten a rattle up here again, and that's happened a few times. I just to be honest and be fair about this, if you guys saw some of the roads I take this on, rutted, nutty, funky, just terrible roads. I've just beat the crap out of this bike on this road. You'd think, how does this thing even hold together? But anyway, because of that kind of riding, I suppose, this whole thing had become compromised, let's just say that. And so I tore this all apart yesterday. We, you know, had a little rattle, and we fixed it all back up, got everything tight again, as it should be. Thank you, Baxter's, for the help with that. And I took it out for a ride, and I had a squeak, and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So about 15 miles later, I went back to Baxter Cycle, and they looked at it and determined right away that it was right there. And what it was the bushings in here, or whatever's in there. I don't know what's in there, but whatever's in there was squeaking. And all of a sudden, they had that whole thing tore apart. There's a shaft in here that's big. I mean, I don't know how big it is, but there's the end of it. And they had that out. That means my swing arm was loose. That's, you know, that's a swing arm pivot point. And they cleaned and greased and this and that and whatever they do, you know, and had it back together in probably, I don't know, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. And the problem is gone. And I really appreciate their help with that, and how they were willing to just, you know, they just jumped right in and got it done. You know, it was just, oh, here's the problem, get it fixed, and on the road I go. So I really appreciate their help with that. Now, I'm out here at this park, beautiful Springbrook State Park. I'm going to go for a walk. Now I'm going to catch up with y'all a little bit later, and we'll talk about all the basic information about the bike and the add-ons that I've done to it, and we'll just go from there. Wahoo! Well, I dumped all the oil out of her. I got about 4,000 miles on this oil. And of course, the first thing I did was drop that in the pan and make a mess. I'd clean all that up, but you know, what's life without that, right? Still, one of the bolts is in there. The oil's still got a little bit of red to it, so it's pretty good. It's, like I said, 4,000 miles on it. Not too bad. Got a new oil filter right here. Anyway, I'm going to put it all back together and put the new oil in. I got this Motul. Is that what it's called? 7100. And then I'm going to go ahead and lube up the chain again while I'm at it. I don't do that. Probably don't do that often enough. So a little bit about the bike. Might as well talk about the numbers, right? 411cc, single cylinder, single overhead cam, 2 valve, 1 intake, 1 exhaust, fuel injected. Puts out about 24 horsepower, about 24 foot-pounds of torque. I think that's 32 Newton meters, if I remember right. Has a 5-speed transmission, which is kind of clunky. For a Royal Enfield, it's pretty clunky. Royal Enfields like this 350 Classic here, the transmission is just smooth as can be, you know. And this thing is a little tractor, more tractor-ish, I guess, compared to that. I like it though. It's very, you know, never a false neutral or anything like that. It always works good. Wheelbase, 58 inches. I think that's 1,473 millimeters. Ground clearance, 220 millimeters. That's 8.6 inches, I believe. About 7.9 inches of travel here. That's about 200 millimeters. And 7.1 inches of travel on the rear. That's about 180 millimeters. I had to memorize that stuff, so that's why I'm getting right to it. They're 41 millimeter forks. The front wheel is I think it's a 90-90-19, so I can verify that. Somewhere on there it says it. And this is the Dunlop Trail Max Mission also, yeah, 90-90-19. And then the rear is, I think this is a 120, a 120-90-17. And I just put that one on a couple days ago, and I just love those tires. You know, that's the rear one, and this is the front one. I think I put this one on 5,000 miles ago. And it just, they're heavier tires, so they increase the centrifugal force. So the bike, you know, it's a little harder to make it move, but it wants to get right back on track. So it's very stable, feels very stable with it. Weight of this motorcycle in stock form, 439 pounds is what the list lists officially. That's with a full tank of fuel. That's about 199 kilos. I added these racks on the back and the bags, bigger windshield, of course the heavier tires. I don't think I've added much else. Now, the seat, I guess I have added some other things. And, you know, things like these hand covers, hand guards. It's been a great bike. I just love it. Just love it. Things I have not done to it, because that's probably just as important. I have not upgraded the cam. I have not put a aftermarket exhaust on it. You know, I haven't put an intake system, you know, one of those DNA intake systems on there. I think all that stuff is great. I just haven't seen the value in it for me. You know, the cam would be, I can't remember what the cams are, $300. Intake system would probably cost another $80, $90. Booster plug is another $100 if I wanted to go that route. Exhaust system, anywhere from $200. AEW makes a really good one for about 120 bucks, I guess. The big advantage of that would be lighter, I suppose, a little more sound. You can also spend, you know, I think Zard has one that's $900, but it's a really nice system. I haven't done those because I've been very happy with how the bike performs, you know, engine-wise. I'm not racing anymore, and I usually ride alone, so, you know, in relative terms, you know, there's really no competition. Other things I have not done that other friends of mine have. And by the way, the people that I know that have done those things, their bikes are enjoyable. I mean, they seem to run pretty good. They're still rideable. You know, a lot of times when you do upgrades on a motorcycle, you decrease the rideability of the bike. In those cases, the bikes are still pretty rideable. Other things I have not done that other friends of mine have done. I have had I've rode bikes with the I think it's YSS suspension, and then Hagen makes a shock for the rear also that I've ridden. And those do feel different, and I'm sure they're better. And I'm thinking if I was more, you know, if I was competing in the off-road realm, I would change it. But I'm not competing. I'm just doing normal riding, and it seems to work pretty well that way. I've also had parents put progressive springs and thicker oil and all that stuff in the fork. And, you know, a lot of times those things, I think they change the motorcycle. Whether they make it better or not, that's, you know, is it marginally better? Is it something, you know, is it something worth doing? I don't know. I haven't done those things because I haven't needed to. Other things I've added to this, I added the windshield on the front. I wanted the biggest windshield. I went on a super long ride one day, and a couple 100 miles, 200-300 miles, I can't remember anymore. And it was really windy, and I just got beat to death by the wind. So I wanted this big winch on there, and it works really good. I call this my winter bike. So you know, that windshield really helps a lot. I've done a lot of rain on this, and that like I said, that does, you know, a lot of good. I also put this grill on here. I do a lot of gravel, so I want something to protect my headlight. Other things I've added, I raised the fender up here. I got caught in the mud. You know, when I got this bike, I didn't think I'd ever, you know, I'm never going to get caught in the mud, right? One of the first couple weeks I had it, I went over a hill and it was all mud, and locked the front tire up. Had to push it 100 yards with the front tire locked up through sticky mud. You know, it was just a mess, absolute mess. The whole back end was just stuffed full of mud, and yeah, I got the bike out of there, got it all cleaned up, and then I raised the fender up a little bit, and I've got really good tires for gravel, and I have done some mud with it, and the tires, you know, these Dunlop Trail Max Missions, actually, they clear themselves pretty good. Clearing means they throw the chunks of mud off so the tire doesn't become a big slick ball. Other things I haven't done anything with are the brakes. I haven't touched them, actually. They just put new calipers on as part of a warranty thing, but I never upgraded the pads or anything like that. And like I said, I've got 20,000. The pads in the front were good, and the pads in the back were about half bad, you know, half gone. So I'll change the pads in the back here pretty soon. I put these little bags on, and I've thought about getting bigger bags or different bags, and what I found is this bag's always empty, and this is the bag I keep stuff in. It's, you know, I've got plenty of storage, you know, and I've got this net on the back that I can carry things on. I also have this up here for things like Tylenol and just little things. Another thing that I added that I really, really value is, well, a couple things. One of these mirror extensions, because it gets my shoulders out of the mirrors. The other one is this air pressure sensor thing. Now, all my bikes have air pressure sensors. You can see them right here. This is the Fobo kind. That one has them too. And those are phone based. I have to look at my phone to see what the air pressure is. I was riding a lot of gravel, and I would get along, and it would feel like I had lost my back tire, like I'd lost, you know, got a flat. And I'd pull over, and the tire was fine. It was just bad gravel, you know. It's all, you know, mushy gravel. So I bought this type of system. Fobo does not make a reader for their product. So I got on Amazon, I simply bought one that met my requirements. It's rechargeable. This is rechargeable with USB. It's got the tire pressure, the temperature, all that neat stuff on there. And it shuts itself off automatically if the bike doesn't move. And the sensors are these little tiny sensors right here. So what that does for me is it gives me real-time readout of my tire pressure. And I really like that. Here's an example of what it looks like. So right now I've got 35 in the back and about 31 in the front. If the tire, we took, you know, I aired the front tire yesterday. We took the valve cover off, the sensor off, I guess it is, right there. And this thing started making noise and, you know, letting us know that there was zero pressure in the front tire. So what else can I tell you about this thing? That's about it as far as technical stuff goes. I think I'm going to get the oil back in this thing, get it all wrapped up, and we'll take it for a ride. And the next stop, I'll tell you about how it handles, how comfortable it is, how I feel on it, what I'd like to do to it to make it more comfortable, how it rides going down the road, things like that. And then I'll give you a conclusion at that point too. The conclusion is, I'll tell you right now, I love this bike. 20,000 miles, my favorite motorcycle. How's that? Anyway, I'll get this thing all full of oil and geared up, and away we'll go. Howdy y'all, we are out in the middle of nowhere now. Check it out. Dirt roads going that way. Dirt roads going that way, kind of mud rutted. That's not too bad. Look at all these bent over nails and things like that. I pulled up here and flipped my bike around and just stuck my foot in that hole there. I suppose I could have dropped the bike or broke my foot or who knows what. But anyway, look at that hot rod. Been having a ball on that thing today. Got the oil changed. And you know, I should check to see if it's leaking anything, huh? Nothing there. Nothing there. Hey, we're doing good. We're doing good. Anyway, just having a ball with it. One thing I didn't show y'all was a dash on this. This is kind of an antique dash. When this bike came out new, I thought it was kind of antiquated, you know. It's got, it's all analog. And that isn't bad. I like an analog speedometer and analog tach, but it's the way it's laid out. You know, everything's far apart. It does have an analog fuel gauge. That's a compass down there, but it never works. There are some neat lights. Engine light, battery light, which is always nice. You can turn off the ABS on this bike, though. I must say I've never done that. It just shuts the rear ABS off. Down here in the LCD, there's a clock, a temperature gauge. It says 97 right now. It's probably 92 or 3. Gear indicator over here, and then this is on trip A right here, and then the odometer right there. I hope you guys can hear me over the wind. This is something I added. I think I might have got into that earlier about the tire pressure gauging. I said I would talk about how this thing this is what my tire pressure is supposed to be right here. How this thing is to sit on when you're going down the road. You sit almost upright, leaning forward. I've thought about getting some bar risers, and as a matter of fact, I was at Baxter's the other day and I looked for the kind I wanted. They didn't have them in stock, so I might just have them order me a pair. That would raise the bars up and back a little bit. So you lean forward slightly, your feet, so your buttocks is right here, your feet are right here, so your knees come like this, and then your feet go back. And that's pretty important because when you're on a road, well, this isn't a terrible road, but if you're on some bad roads or whatever, or hit a bump or come up on something, you can push yourself, you know, you can stand up pretty easy on the pegs. And that's pretty important for an ADV bike. That's, can you hear the birds? That's pretty important for an ADV bike. When I pulled up here, just so y'all know, there was a big old heron here. He flew off that way. Then I walked over here and something kind of dove into the water and I didn't get to see what it was. I don't know if it was a big fish or a beaver or whatever. We're in a pretty rural part of the area of our Audubon County. Although just over that hill is the interstate. Anyway, back to the bike. I raised this seat. This seat is 1.5 inches taller than the stock seat. So on the normal Himalayan, this seat is down here somewhere. And I wanted the extra, I wasn't comfortable with the other seat. This seat is flatter and it's wider, and that's what I need. I'm wide back there too, you know, so. Driving this thing around. So like in a garage, it's pretty tall. It's like on stilts, but you know, even though it is a high center of gravity, it's not terribly high. So as long as you're careful, it's not bad at all. The weight isn't that bad, really. It pushes pretty easy, I'd say. In parking lots and things like that, no trouble at all. Driving around town, it's a great town bike. It's just high in the air, you know. And I've got a friend whose driveway is on a street that goes up like this, and his driveway slants like this. And when I back out of that driveway, I really gotta watch where I put my left foot because, you know, it might be a long way down. But no, it's a great town bike. It's a little high centered, and you know, I don't have enough room for groceries or anything like that. When I do that, I take my little grocery getter, my classic 350, if I need to do, you know, a lot of town stuff, I guess. But roads like this, it's king. It just eats this stuff up. Iowa gravel roads, Iowa dirt roads, you know, it's made for it. You know, 2-lane blacktop, this thing is a king of that. It'll do 2-lane blacktop all day long, and I'm very happy with that. That's something that I think it does incredibly well. You kind of feel like a fighter pilot out there. You're up in the air, you're higher than traffic, you know. You get in town, like city. I've had this in, I live close to Omaha and I live close to one. I've had it in both. And this bike is a killer city bike because, again, you're high up in the air, good visibility, it handles pretty well, it's got decent torque, and compared to a car, it's got pretty good power. Compared to other motorcycles, it's, you know, but compared to a car, it's pretty good. On the interstate, I'll take it on the interstate if I have about 10 miles or less to go, and it'll do just fine. It'll do 70, 75. If the wind's with me, it might do 80, 85. I think it tops out at about 85, 82 or 3, something like that. So that's the criteria for riding it. So here's the big one. Here's the thing I gotta get. I know how to get this across to y'all. Low power. I talked about this earlier. It's low power. It's heavy. It's got a long wheelbase. It's up in the air. You know what makes this a bike that I enjoy? So this is probably my favorite bike I've ever owned. And why is that? And I can't really quantify it other than to say it's just a whole bunch of fun. I guess it's one of them bikes that really doesn't do anything great, but it does everything pretty darn good, you know, and it's pretty comfortable doing it. You know, whatever you want to do, it'll do it okay, and that's what I kind of like about it. I can go anywhere I want on this bike, anywhere in Iowa, and it'll, you know, if I want to go on pavement all day long, I've gone on, you know, I think it was 377 miles of pavement one day, and it's not a great bike for that, but it did it just fine. And I've done a couple 100 miles of gravel on it also, on other days, and it'll do that just fine. It just performs, you know, it just does what you want to do when you want to do it, and it's cheap and easy to own. You know, that's the other thing I guess that's kind of nice about it. When something needs done on this bike, it's so simple, you know. One spark plug, one cylinder. You know, the squeaking noise I was talking about earlier, I showed it to Baxter. They had the bike tore apart, you know, they didn't even put it in the garage, just tore it apart in the parking lot. put it back together. You know, in 20 minutes they had it apart and put back together, and you know, just simple, easy peasy. It just is a good all-around machine. It's friendly. It's like an old buddy. Hey, I'm starting to carry on. You know what? Why don't you all tell me what you like about your motorcycles, especially if you have a Himalayan? I'd like to hear it. Put in the comments below, or go to Forgotten Motorcycles on Facebook and comment on there. Put pictures of your bikes on there too, if you would. Hey, if you are interested in a bike like this, or new or used Royal Enfield, Triumph, classic British bike of any type, get yourself over to Baxter Cycle in Marnie, Iowa, or go to baxtercycle.com and have those guys, let those guys help you out. Now, it's early evening. I started this video early this morning. It's early evening now, and I think I'm going to hop on that little hot rod and try to get another 100 miles on her before the day ends. Life is good. Wahoo! Howdy y'all, fuzzy biker here on the edge of Ottoman County. Cass County's right over yonder. Royal Enfield Himalayan right behind us right there. Now check out what I got behind me there. That is the tree in the middle of the road. Check that out, huh? That tree's been there about 150 years. Can y'all see that? And they say a surveyor put a stick in the ground back in the day, and it grew into a tree. I don't know if that stories are true or not, but it's a good story. Get out there and ride, my friends. Wahoo!